Morning. Good morning, everyone. So today's session is about the Teams. Anyone is using Teams right now? Wow, all are using it. So maybe the basic session is like I can just skip for a while. Basically, in this session, I would run through the PowerShell commands which are available to manage the Teams. Right now, most of the commands are in the beta mode. So some of them might be like, you might face some issue, but still they are working on it. And some of the commands, they just updated in 1 or 2 days before even. So the commands are just evolving. So those commands might change even after 1 week, or they would keep adding more and more commands as well. Okay. This is the agenda, small agenda I have for today. I'll just brief about myself first. Then I go through Microsoft Teams. You guys are already known about Teams because you are a pro then. I started to use now in my app and feels good. And later I would go through how to set up those PowerShell module and start using your PowerShell modules for the Teams, for the management. And finally, I would run through the commands which are available, and pretty much I run few commands in my Teams so that you would have a feel of what is there or what is that commands. You can get it from the Teams already there. So this is about myself. My name is Senthamil Selvan. Most of the time I speak about Windows because I'm a Windows Dev MEP. I do more apps. So these are the apps which I have deployed to the Windows Store, which are UWP apps, the universal apps. And some of them are taken down because it was deployed long back. The one which I love the most is the math formula, which I'm selling it, which has reached almost 150K download already now. So that's how I've been awarded as MEP on Windows apps. Okay, so I do more of Windows. So Teams as such, you guys know about the Microsoft Teams. It comes with the app as well. You can download the app and you can register free with your live ID as well. Teams model, it's more like a Slack. I would say that it is kind of a Slack platform. You can interact or collaborate with in your organization using your chat. The good thing about the Teams is that it's not just a chat platform. You can add a tab, multiple tab connecting to your SharePoint. So whenever you create a new Teams, it is like kind of an Office 365 group is created at the background. Anyone knows about Office 365 group? Okay. So Office 365 group is kind of a central platform which Microsoft connects all the Office 365 platform into one group, which means that Office 365 group can interact with the Yammer, your SharePoint, your Teams. So whatever the platform within Office 365, you can reuse those Office 365 group. So whenever you create an Office 365 group or kind of a team, even the team when you create, at the background, automatically it would create a team, the group, a SharePoint, plus a lot other things behind. You never know. Because once you start creating a team and then go to the Files tab, it is actually a SharePoint. So at the behind the scene, it creates a SharePoint site for you, and it provisions a SharePoint site collection. Then you can start using it. By default, the SharePoint site created at the background will be the modern site. But you have a choice to switch back to the classic site, but by default, it will be a modern site. And all the document library, or whenever you click on the files on the Teams, it directly takes you to the SharePoint document library, which is a modern site features. So you would dump all your files within the SharePoint site. The other good features about the team is that I told you before, it's an Office 365 group. So those group is used everywhere. I mean, you can use it everywhere within the Office 365. Within SharePoint, not just the SharePoint which you have created now. If you already have a SharePoint which is running in site collection or any other sites, you can reuse those groups as well. Not only that, those groups are available as a kind of a group inside your Outlook as well. So if you want to manage your team calendar, then the Office 365 groups comes in handy as well. So all your team calendar can be managed directly within your Outlook. So it integrates with Outlook as well. So that's how Microsoft has kind of centralized everything into one platform, which is the Office 365. So that's how it comes in handy. The other thing which is announced on Ignite, anyone follow Ignite? Yeah, good. So other thing which they announced on Ignite is that they're going to bring in kind of a mild customization on the teams, which is like more of creating a web part. When you create a web part inside your SharePoint, SPFX, then they might probably bring the same kind of an effect into the teams. So if you are a SharePoint developer doing more of SharePoint development using SPFX, which is the SharePoint framework, the foundation framework, then the same web part you can bring into your teams. But Microsoft is working on it. It is not at live. Those features is live. And they have introduced the call feature as well. So it adheres to your call. So which means that whenever you have a team within, you can set up kind of a WebEx kind of a call, live streaming. So those kind of features also been added into the teams recently. Previously it was just a chat framework, but now you can start to interact with teams on the call. So you no longer need just a Skype, but you can use the Teams as well. Microsoft Teams also for call and the live feedback. And there is one more feature which I would speak about later in the other session as well, not here, in different sessions, is that bot. So Teams comes with a default bot you can interact with, but on top of it, you can even create a custom bot using a bot framework. Bot framework is again a separate topic or a concept. Whatever the bot you created for your Azure, for example, you are using the Azure services as a bot to interact with bot question and answer bot. The same bot can be added to the team as a kind of a channel. So team can be one of your channel to your bot, and this bot can be customized from your programming using Visual Studio as well. So Visual Studio, you can use your program and then start creating your own bot, and this bot is kind of question and answer bot, so which is more of interacting with you. It's like a typical bot you can create in. On top of it, you can even use Microsoft Graph API, which is, anyone have heard about the Graph API? 2, 3, 4, okay. Graph API is one of the centralized platform wherein it's kind of a programming platform or the SDK, which is available to consume all your Office 365 services. Like if you want to get your Teams call history and those details which is from the Teams or from Outlook or from email. So there is a centralized way of querying it, which is like more kind of a Facebook Graph API. So you can completely develop offline or a website interacting with your Office 365. That is the main objective of Microsoft Graph. So Teams inside your bot framework, you can authenticate against your account and start interacting with your Microsoft Graph API and pull your data from everywhere, anywhere from Office 365 environment as well. There are interesting scenarios which have been demonstrated before from the Microsoft Ignite as well as from the Microsoft team, is that you can completely build an application on Microsoft Teams using the bot, which is like using the cards, which is the visual cards which you can have, adaptive cards. Say for example, you are in an enterprise environment, you want to apply leave or you want to apply claims into your office. So you can create a bot on the Teams, and it can even interact with Cortana and other thing, and you can just say I want to apply leave, that's it. So it goes back to your SharePoint or your Office 365 or whatever the system behind using Graph API, and it can bring in, these are the leaves which are available right now. What do you want to, which leave you want to apply? So you select it as personal leave, then how many days? Then you are available only with these days. So you want to redeem? Yes. So once everything is done, it can submit into your system, and everything can be done through Graph API if your leave system is on SharePoint, mostly on SharePoint, or if you want to interact with your existing SAP system or some other legacy system, you can program if that supports those API. So those kind of complete end-to-end application, enterprise application, you can even start building using just the Teams. You don't really need a complete separate application to do on. On top of it, if you already have a web application, you can embed it as like iframe inside your Teams as well. So you can embed your Teams kind of an iframe. Any application which you run outside of that, you can add it as a tab then navigation becomes much easier. So that's the main, that's one of the feature which is advertised in Microsoft for Microsoft Teams, because you don't really have to go to a different place to see your application, day-to-day application. You just pin it or add it as a tab in your Microsoft Teams, okay? So the pricing model, if you want to see, let me project it again. Okay, can you see? Yeah, it's small. The pricing model, if you see, there is a free version of the Microsoft Teams. You can sign up using the live, but those has limited features. There is a feature comparison of the free plus your commercial. But if you have an Office 365 subscription, which is a business subscription, then it comes along with your Microsoft Teams. So you should have a certain level of subscription, which is E3, E5. So those kind of subscription already comes with Microsoft Teams. And you can enable it through your admin center. I think by default, for me it didn't enable because I had the Office 365 from long back, so I went in and enabled it. But usually it comes along with the whole package of Office 365. It adheres to your Office 365 package as well, okay? And you have an app for, the Teams app comes in so many varieties, which is like, you have a UWP app from the store you can download, because like the Surface Go, which I'm running in, I cannot run, I didn't switch to the Windows 10 full mode. If you are running a Windows 10S mode, they have a UWP app, you download it, then you can run only the UWP app. If you are running it in Surface Pro or in different laptop mode, they have a downloadable EXE. So you just download the EXE, then you can run your Teams. And they have an Android app and then iOS app. So it comes in all platforms. You can just log in and then start using it. Yeah.
Also that version also works perfectly. You use it through a web browser.
Yeah, they have a web browser version also. Yeah, like in web.whatsapp.com, like they have a web version for Teams as well. Yeah, thanks. That's also more useful. Okay, so those are the flavors of Microsoft Teams comes in. And next, why the PowerShell? Because you cannot do everything. You can do most of the stuff in the UI, but some of the person, or especially for the IT guys or who are managing it or who are supporting it, they need definitely something which can be done from behind using a PowerShell command. So PowerShell command is for like managing and administration or automation. Think of like, why would someone use PowerShell inside a Teams? Think of like you are setting up an event. Say, last time when we were doing a Dev Insider event from Microsoft had set up the Teams for us and they have given an access. So they were running an event on around 20 plus countries. So think of you want to set up a team and then channel for 20 plus countries or 30 plus countries, or you want to interact with a different set of people. So creating 30 channels, you can do it online. One by one you can do it. But if it is a PowerShell command, you just run it, that's it. So it creates 30 channels for you and add a user. Think of like you want to add, not a group, but you want to add individual users, the guest users or whatever. Then it becomes tedious sometime. So you can just automate it using the PowerShell, then run it, that's it. You can easily use it. Also, now I hear from, just now I hear that you can use Microsoft Graph API within your PowerShell. Then the Graph API, in turn, you can use the Microsoft Teams as well. So Microsoft Teams, you can get the call history, call details. Last time when I was following with the Ignite, they mentioned me that you can even do a call using the Microsoft Graph. I have not tried it, but it was just API they were bringing in. Think of like you create a separate application which can interact with Teams, and then so you can do that as well. Okay, so that's how the PowerShell comes in handy, and it is very useful in certain scenarios like setting up the picture. It was kind of a very sometimes it becomes in the UI, it becomes very tedious for me to set a picture for a team or for a channel. But PowerShell command is just one line, set image, done. So it becomes much handy. So there are certain scenarios where you want to really need a backend or kind of a command which is easy to manage it. Okay. Without moving in, I'll just show. Okay, so if you have not seen Teams, this is the Teams, and it is the exe version which I downloaded and ran it on my local machine. And I have logged in with my Office 365 account. So I have an Office 365 account which the organization name is like NMDM, which is the name of an organization. Once you log in, you can also switch between a different account. If you have multiple Teams account wherein you belong to your company working for a customer, then you can also make your customer to invite to your own ID as well. But sometime you want to switch between account, you can still do, like you can close and switch between different accounts as well. It is like more of live ID. And also one another feature is that someone can invite you as a guest as well. Say for example, in my Office 365, I have a feature where I can add a live ID or someone outside of my organization into the Teams. So when I send an invite, you become like a guest, and the guest account will be shown right away from here. Okay, because at one time I was working with Microsoft on the events, so they invited me as a guest. So if you can see that there is a guest account as well. So it's from the invite from the Microsoft, it is a guest account. I can log in with that account. But when I want to switch that to the account, it uses a different live ID. So I'll have to log in with a different live ID, then it goes from there. Okay. And recently I had one issue when you switch between the account, which is like, this is my personal experience. In case if you experience that, you can make use of this solution, which means that if someone invites you as a guest for the Microsoft Teams, you might run into an issue like not logging in, it keep on running in a loop. So at that time, you make sure that your whatever the live ID which the person has invited should have a minimum of one Teams or the channel in, then it solves the issue. Okay, I was running into that issue once. Okay, so this is the Teams, and inside the team you can add a, this is the file tab. The file tab is nothing but another SharePoint. It is not just a SharePoint site. My thinking is that, or the case is that it is a complete SharePoint site collection. Okay, so SharePoint site collection is a big thing, which means that it is the top of all the sites, and you would be kind of administrator to that site collection. And you can, which is like, if you are a SharePoint guy and you are given a SharePoint site collection administration, it is like you are a boss, and you can do anything inside that SharePoint. Okay, yeah. And if you see here, there are so many other apps which are coming in on the Teams. You can even build your own app and publish it here. And these apps also you can, right now I don't see any PowerShell command to add in apps as of now, but future they might add in. So for example, in an organization you want to completely set up default setup for all the teams, then you can, the PowerShell shell should come in handy, but I don't see the PowerShell command right now. And you can add all those apps which are already there. Most of the time the people would use the Planner app and the Power BI apps. So they can use it to use that. So these apps, when you add the PowerShell, when you add the Planner apps, which means that it becomes like a different app as well. And you need to open it in, they have their own iOS, Android, all those apps. You can open it and then manage it through your tab, also inside your apps as well. Streams is one of the app which is like more of YouTube into your local of organization, YouTube kind of. Okay, so these are the apps you can add in, and the apps list is growing off. And inside, as I mentioned you can even deploy your own apps like your web API or whatever the apps you want to develop. You can develop and deploy it here within your organization also. Okay. Okay, so right now I have only one. Let me go into the demo mode. Okay, before that, let me give you a brief about how to set up. Okay, so if you want to start using the PowerShell command, obviously you need to install. So install module and then the Teams, it will start to download your NuGet package into your local machine, and you should accept, as I mean, you are the PowerShell guru, so you know, like you should. Yes, yeah, yes. And install module is from previous slide, yes, yeah, sorry. And then you can install the Microsoft Teams. Microsoft Teams, it will start to install. Before it starts to install, it will warn you, as usual. There are a level of warning. So those warning messages, you can say yes. Of course, you want to run, so you'll have to mention it as yes. And then finally, once everything is done, you get all the PS commands which are already there. Okay, there is a site which is more of, yeah, I have added the GitHub URL. This URL is the one where they keep on adding more and more commands, and it has a sample commands as well, which means that whatever the commands, the new command they're coming up with it, you can see the sample of how to run it, what are those parameters it takes, and how to manage all those. You can also start, it is like a GitHub, so you can fork, and then if you want to add in more, you can start adding in your more or give a feedback to that to Microsoft as well, okay, the team. Let me, so these are the commands. Let me run that. Okay, so these are the, right now these are the commands which are available in the Teams for managing the team. And most of them are kind of self-explanatory. And yeah, remove team, yeah, get team users. Let me set up those. Okay, so I'm running the virtual machine because local I don't want to run that. Let me have this open. Okay. Okay, so just use this one. The first command you would start using is that it's connect Microsoft Teams, which means it will pop up your login window as usual. Is like Office 365. Good question. Certain commands you have to be an admin, but several it depends on your Office 365 account. If you are using Get Teams, right now administrator will get all the teams within, but if you are running without an administrator, then it gets you only the team which you are in. So it is kind of, yeah. Okay, let me, give me a moment. Okay, so once it has, yeah, once it has logged in, you would see the details of your tenant, which is like msisgreat.net. It is my tenant, which is Office tenant. Then I use those commands as well. And if you want to use get teams, okay. So right now I have only one team in my Office team. Every team is given by a GUID. They call it as a group ID. So within the PowerShell command, they treat it as a group ID, which means, as I mentioned you, Office 365 groups. So for them, it is more of kind of a group, not kind of a team. So this group ID is like tied with multiple things. So they always use the group ID. This is the GUID you would use for all other commands. Like if you want to set a description for a team or set a name, change a name for a team, you will always use this GUID. So this GUID should be very handy. You should always have this GUID. That's why I started using the get team, then get the GUID. Okay, so let me get this. I would use set team hyphen group ID, then the GUID hyphen display name. Okay, I'm changing the name to hopefully it works. Okay, please work. Okay, it is instant. So when you go to the team here, I changed it from SGMEP to please work. So the team name is automatically changed in. So it is kind of more instant. I was even really was kind of amazed. It is like the next second it is there. So it is much faster. And then similarly, you can create a channel. New team channel under the group ID. So group ID is always the one, then the display name. So you need to mention the display name. Okay. So once the channel is created, it would give you the detail of that channel thread. And if you see here, that is .Skype. Okay. So internally they are manipulating with Skype as well, because now they interacted with, they added the call feature. So I don't know, something internally they map it to Skype. Okay. So the channel is already there. So you can, it's like now it's up to you. You can run any kind of a logic inside your PowerShell script and then start creating 20, 30 channels of your own. Then it starts to appear all those channels. So if you are not running as an admin, then you cannot create a channel, which means that you can just run only certain commands within. You cannot create a channel. Okay. So the other command which I want to show you is like the fun team, set team picture, set fun team ops, team fun settings. Okay. So within the teams, administrator can even set kind of what is the level of the text boxes or the emojis or the graphics plus the glimpse you can add in. So there is a control over on administrator what is the level of chat you can put in. So certain emojis may be offensive, so they can completely disable certain kind of graphics within as well, within an organization. So you can even manage that using the set team fun settings. This settings you can specify the parameter and then enable or disable based on your whatever the need which you are looking for. Okay. So this command comes with handy as well. And also you have an option to remove the team. This remove team will just completely remove it. I don't know whether it will completely delete it, but remove, which means that I could not see it in the front end. So hopefully it removes completely in. There is no command I can see on archive. Sometime you want to archive your whole teams. Right now there is no kind of an archive feature even in the UI, which is like, I don't know how to archive it. Because one of the scenarios which in the other user group when I was speaking, people are asking me that, yeah, mostly we are running a teams to set up an event, and then once the event is done, we have kind of 30, 40 channels, but still we want to archive all these into somewhere so that later for some audit purpose or some other purpose, we can just pull in, not make it as active, but right now I didn't see those features as well. So that would be good if it is added in. And other settings which are more pretty much straightforward, you can get the help of all those. You can get this, you can use this command, get team help. This command will give you the, maybe I'll run it. Okay, so get team help is also there. You can see the list of commands which are already inside in your teams, and then you can start interacting with it. It's like a normal PowerShell command which you can start using it right away. Okay, and then finally I want to show you only this. Where is that? Okay. Yeah. And if you see the command list and the feature which you have, currently most of the commands which you see here are the beta commands, and you cannot manage the tabs as in, which means that you cannot add your app. You have to manually add your tab from the GUI. You should go through the GUI to add your apps. Those apps you cannot just set it in your PowerShell as well. These commands are pretty much standard commands. You can start using it, and you can play around with those commands as well. Okay. That's almost most of the commands I have. Yeah. And one last thing which I want to mention in, these commands are like more of like once the teams are set up and you are adding more and more teams and the channels and you are managing the Microsoft Teams within. If you really want to roll out kind of full setup, like a complete Office 365 setup in your organization, then there is a different way of going through the ladder, which means that it goes through the normal process of setting up your Office 365, setting up your Office 365 administrator, admin account, then later you go through the process of creating the groups, Office 365 groups, then provisioning your Yammer, and all those things can be managed through the other PowerShell command which are at the Office 365 tenant level. This command which I am specifying in is more of like Microsoft, only to specific Microsoft Teams level. Okay, so those commands are mainly for administrating the whole Office 365. You have to be the Office 365 tenant to manage those high level of commands which you are running in on the Office 365 level. Okay, so that is a complete different one. But still, you can somehow automate most of the commands which comes from the Office 365 tenant level. Like in SharePoint, you manage at the high level packages. And on top of it, if you want to manage, these commands are like hardcore kind of a PowerShell command. As I mentioned you before, if you want to have still more deeper into it, right now there is not much that you should use the Microsoft Graph API. Graph API, internally you can use the PowerShell or directly the Graph API and manage your other activities within the teams. Like one thing is, if you want to interact with your Office 365 Live ID and then get the details of your bot or your teams within your teams, then you should use only the Graph API. You cannot use the PowerShell commands. It's very, very limited right now, the Office PowerShell commands. Okay. So that's all I have for now. Yeah. So the last 5-10 minutes, I can get some questions. Yeah. Yes. I. Yeah, good question. Makes sense. But right now, it's like kind of they just started it. Even as you had mentioned, get team command, they just updated 2 days back, which is just like previously get team.
So like 4 days ago, you could, if you run get team, even if you were a Google admin, you only got the teams you were owner of. So now, if you update, you see that it get every team if you're a Google admin.
Yeah, it is a kind of, it's evolving. That's why they put it in the GitHub. So the user voice plus your comments and the issues, you can go through the GitHub and then give fork and then start.
Is it being worked on by Teams team?
Yeah, Teams team. Yeah, they are publishing it in the team Microsoft team people. They are adding in, and you can fork in. And the separate set of people who are working on Teams also, I mean, not just focusing on Teams, they are working on the bot management as well. To add the bot, remove bot, then those kind of things, other teams are working as well, adaptive cards. Yeah. Yeah. One more question? Yes. Same question. Yeah, so right now it is very primitive, but they are working kind of very aggressive. So even 2-3 months back, I didn't see much of the commands, I guess. They've started adding more and more commands right now. It is very active, the GitHub. Yeah. Any other questions on team development, Teams, bot framework? So actually, I'm speaking on the bot framework, how to set up the bot on Microsoft Teams as well. I mean, not just the Microsoft Teams, just the development of bot framework, then how do you make it apply channel inside the Microsoft Teams. Actually, I have created one, but I don't know whether it works. So if it is not anything, yeah, so that's all I have. Thank you so much for attending.